The Black Death is what we call the bubonic plague that tore through Europe in the 1300s. It began here in the east, as you see, and then trade spread it to these areas in the lighter green. Trading ships came down, and so it first started appearing in this part of Europe in the wealthy Italian city-states that did quite a bit of trading throughout the Mediterranean. So the Black Death comes down on boats. It travels on rats that are on those boats, specifically on fleas that are on the rats that are on the boats. That's the method of transmission. Once it's in those trading city-states, trade and just natural migration spreads it all throughout these areas of Europe and the Middle East and Northern Africa. It continues to spread throughout Europe. It's got a very high mortality rate. A mortality rate is the number of people that a disease kills. Keep in mind, this spread isn't even. Concentrated, highly dense cities where people live really close to one another are much more hit, right? There's much higher casualty rates in big cities than there is in rural areas. No one is unaffected, but again, the situation is worse in cities that are very densely packed with people. Many people try and understand the Black Death by seeing it as a divine punishment for sins, and so one of the ways some people try to cure it or to sort of stop the disease is they take to whipping themselves in public. These were called the flagellants. They would whip themselves in public, thinking that that would stop or ameliorate the effects of the spread of the Black Death. This was a quite popular movement in Europe at the time. It obviously doesn't work. The disease continues to spread through Europe. And this is the last map. As you can see, it goes through most of Europe, killing between 1/3 to 2/3 of the population of any given place. It obviously depended on where you were at, what proportion of people were killed. The people at the time didn't know, of course, that the Black Death was transmitted through, rats, and then, the fleas on the rats, and then through the infected rats. Again, like I said, many people looked to religious causes for the Black Death, but there were other thoughts. This gives you an idea of the science at the time. These were various European explanations for the Black Death, that perhaps it was impure air, so perhaps it was something in the air that was causing it. They looked to the stars. They thought maybe that conjunction of various planets had caused it, as well as outrageous fashion. And then over here you had some cures that they had in mind. They thought that maybe they could, build fires. Maybe they could, cover the windows, try to keep the bad air out. And that was, again, these were various ideas they had for how to cure it. This gives you just a taste of the flavor of the science that existed at the time. Last but not least, the effects that the Black Death had on the economy. It caused wages for the average worker to rise. And why is that? It's because the amount of laborers went, and the amount of farmers and everything went down. So with the supply going down, laborers became more rare and therefore more valuable. And the power of the landlords, conversely, went down because their power came from the fact that they had a lot of land and could grow a lot of food. But with the amount of people going down, the demand for food went down as well. So at the same time that you had sort of your average workers who up to this point had been serfs. Remember, a serf is somebody who's tied to the land. They're a peasant who cannot move. These serfs, the serfs who survive, are now actually in a better, it's hard to call it better, right, because of this terrible plague and lots of people die, but financially, the serfs who survive are in a position to demand higher wages of the landlords, since not only are the serfs now empowered because their labor is worth more, but the leverage of the landlords has at the same time become less. So the long-term effects on the economy are to shift Europe out of serfdom, and peasants are able to become more like tenants, and be able to sort of move as their economic situation warrants, as they're able to. They're not sort of forced to stay on their land anymore.